Yep.
Welcome back to another episode of With a Grain of Salt. I am your host, Isaiah Salter, and I appreciate each and every one of you tuning in for yet another week. We have the one and only Tracy Dando back in the building.
One and only.
The one
I
and
like
only.
that.
Come on now.
I like that.
Well, let's start off with how are you doing? How have you been since we last spoke? I think it's been 2 weeks.
I'm good. It's been busy.
Really?
It's been busy, yeah. So I feel like I'm on the recharge right now. I got my battery a little depleted. Pink was in town this past week.
I saw that.
So,
Yeah.
I'm on this recharge right now. So, but I'm good.
That's good.
You?
I'm doing well. Yeah, I'm doing well. Just I was mentioning this yesterday to Tom, just really being locked in, really being 10 toes in everything that I'm trying to do and just giving it everything. I feel like we move in seasons as human beings, and sometimes you're going to have seasons where you feel like you're dragging and things are a little more tough, and then you're going to have seasons where inspiration and creativity is at all-time high. And it's about learning how to harness that and make the most out of it.
Absolutely.
So that's what I feel like I'm in right now.
Gosh, and the fact that you're figuring that out now, I can't wait to see you in 10 years. I really can't.
36 in 10 years.
I can't wait to
crazy.
see you in 10
Wow.
years.
So the topic of this episode will be relationships, dealing with, different things within that. I think this is something that you can speak to a lot of. Just being able to navigate relationships, but specifically toxic relationships. I feel like that's something that a lot of people struggle with handling in their life, because if you look at our society and the things that we push, it's like it's a recipe to get into toxic relationships or to create toxic relationships, right? And so, touch on that a little bit. Wherever you want to take it, we can take it. I got some prompts and stuff that we can go into, but just touch on what your experience was like, especially when you were younger, trying to navigate relationships, getting involved with different people, seeing different sides of things, and dealing with different types of people, and having to go through heartbreak and loss, and this person isn't for me. Talk on that a little bit.
Of course.
So, especially from a woman's perspective. Yeah. So.
I think my generation grew up with a fairy tale Prince Charming sort of idea. So we grew up when Disney movies were at their prime, and there was this idea of that there was going to be a Prince Charming, right? And so I think I always grew up with that in my head, that I needed someone else to complete me. And we also have all of those sayings, right? Like, you complete me, like the Jerry Maguire famous quote. Is that the Jerry Maguire? It's like we actually have been taught from such a young age that we rely on others to complete who we are. And we've looked at marriage that way and partnership. And now we're in this really exciting phase of being like, no, I complete myself fully. And you compliment me. And if you aren't bringing me up, bringing me joy, making me grow, all of those things, then really, should you be in my life? I think we're starting to hold these boundaries. And specifically as a woman, we're realizing we can make our own money and we can balance the kids and the household. And is all of it very hard? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we can do it. And if that person, our partner, is not adding to the joy of our life, then it's we kind of would rather do it on our own, which I know is sort of negative in ways, but it's also forcing, I feel like, men to start to take a look at themselves and start to do their inner work and say, okay, how can I be that person for you?
Yes, absolutely. What do you think's the line between being independent but not pushing people away?
Oh yeah.
Because I hear a lot of that independent talk, I'm independent, I don't need a man, I don't need anybody.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's important to be able to take care of yourself, fill up your own cup, have your own responsibilities and stuff. But sometimes I feel like it's approached as you're pushing men away, trying to demean them. You know what I mean? So what's that?
Yeah, it's a protection strategy, right? I'm protecting my heart, and I'm doing it in a lens of sort of saying I'm super independent, I don't need you. But we're human. One of our basic needs is human connection. So we need each other which is why what we've seen through COVID with isolation, you have seen what happens when we pull people apart. We need people. And so The people that are very strong in that, usually I see as a protection strategy, as a way that they're protecting themselves because they have been hurt. So the line is, I think the line is cloudy, and I think it's probably different for everybody. I used to think that I was a very anxious attachment and needed somebody like all the time. And what I'm realizing is as I've healed, I actually like the distance. I like someone that lets me be me and that I have then the safety of coming back home to. So also, like, that brings up attachment styles. Like, I think it's really cool to dissect your attachment style. Do you know what yours is?
Can you break down what
So,
are the attachment styles? Because I've never even gotten into this before.
Okay, so this was a big thing when I was in treatment. This was one of the things that they made us do because we start to dissect your childhood. Okay. And when you look at your childhood, it was how you learned what love was. Security and attachment is this way that we come together. And our parents or whomever your figures were at that point were those people. How did you attach to them? Because a child can't take care of themselves, right? And so love is a basic need, just like food and water. So if the parent is in charge of supplying that to the child, if the parent has their own traumas, now let's be honest, all of our parents do have their own traumas. Some of them had trouble showing, expressing, giving that love and that security. So that child grows up learning what love is from their parents. So there's 4 different attachment styles. There's secure attachment, which means you had a parent that showed you all of that love. You had a voice with, so they validated their feelings. You felt very secure. They let you go, and then you could come back, and the parent was always there. It was just this, you knew they were going to be there, and they were going to help you through things and validate your feelings, and that was secure. So anxious is when that feeling wasn't necessarily there all the time. So where you couldn't trust that your parent was there to validate your truth or to give you that love. So it might have been an emotionally shut down parent. It might have been a parent that had anger issues or had an addiction of some sort where you weren't sure really what parent was going to walk in the door. So you grew to know, like, I can't trust that parent's going to be able to protect me or provide me. So you grow up very anxious around love, and they're the type of people that need the constant reassurance. So, like, you still love me, right? You're still there. Like, all these things. And so it actually feels like it's terrifying. It's because it's a basic need, right? We talked about love being a basic need. So it shows up in our relationships as we get older, and it feels like unless you're consistently reassuring me that we're okay, I'm going to worry that we're not okay. So it shows up as anxious. The third one is avoidant. So avoidant basically is where none of those needs get met really at all, and you learn that love is actually the trigger. Love is scary. So they actually want love in a way, but they don't know how to accept it. And when they feel love, it actually creates a whole, like, trigger inside of them. That is actually the most uncomfortable thing love is. So they avoid it at all costs. So they end up doing sort of a push-pull thing. They're usually very independent. And they act like, they just don't need it. They just... Yet there are times of them pulling it in because they do need it. They do want it, but it also is terrifying for them. And then there's a disorganized attachment, which is both of those. So when you anxiously want it, right, and you're in it, and then when love actually shows up and it's time for commitment and it's time for vulnerability and hard conversations and all of that, they're like, yeah, no way. And they back up and they're like, I'm out of here. And then it creates this push-pull dynamic. So what we experienced as children actually becomes attractive to us as adults. So when we see that in another partner, it feels like attraction, yet it's actually your nervous system hyped up on anxiety being like, I recognize this.
Wow. Wow. Oh. Yo, that is, I've never
heard that.
I've never talked about that ever. I've never even.
You're going to go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, I am now. Because now hearing it, I think I definitely would say I'm secure.
Yeah.
Because my mom, I always say this about my mom. She gave me the best gift I think you can give any kid, and that's unconditional love. No matter what I did, no matter what happened at school, no matter what happened outside of the house, I always knew my mom's love would be there. Like, there's nothing I could have ever did where I thought, oh, she's not going to love me anymore. There's nothing. She might be disappointed and frustrated, but the love my mom has for me and still has for me,
wow,
it's second to none. So I think it definitely allowed me to experience different things, be curious, try things, and feel comfortable being myself. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Can I ask, what did that look like? What did unconditional love look like to you?
Right. It wasn't until, there's that saying that you don't connect the dots moving forward. It's only until you get a certain point you look back, right? So I didn't realize it in the time, but what I was always yearning for was I was getting caught up in the superficial of what my friends had and what everybody around me had. The finances, my mom has ADHD, and she's very, she always uses this term, the way her brain works or whatever. So she's not as organized, right? Mm-hmm. And so I would see like people's houses be really clean, and I would see that type of stuff. And then my mom at my basketball games and stuff was the loudest parent, yelling. She didn't care about it. And I see all the other parents kind of just sitting there and controlling themselves. And that always made me like, man, I wish my mom was like that. You know what I mean? And then you start to, grow older and realize that's some of the best things that you got from your mom. But I think for me, it looked like it wasn't physical touch. My mom's not even much of a hugger or anything like that. I think it's just the energy, when you could just be fully yourself around somebody. Mm-hmm. When, my mom has such a pure soul. Every time I was around her, it just wasn't even a question if my mom loved me. When my older brother was going through all of his stuff, getting kicked out the house and getting into trouble and stuff like that, the way my mom would just pick up whatever she was doing and just leave and go find him off rip. Mm-hmm. My brother was going through some mental health stuff, flew all the way to Las Vegas, ended up on the street. My mom was on a flight the next day. Wow. I'm like, you're not even thinking, you're just doing. I'm like, that's unconditional love. There's no thought. I'm just doing it. Yeah. And so I would see all these things, and then as I matured and I started to, gain a deeper sense of life in myself, I started to realize, just my mom being my mom, mm-hmm. Who she was is that's the embodiment of unconditional love. It's not so much of a doing something rather than a being. Yeah. She embodied what it is to be love at the purest form. So even the way it's just, so I think it was just all those things I would complain about, I wouldn't change. Now I'm like, man, that's what makes my mom. Yeah, that's what makes, now I feel, because now you grow up and you see those same kids that you once were like, man, I wish I had their life. Yep. And you're like, man, Ma, thank you.
Yes.
I know we had our issues, right? All the stuff, and we came from certain places, but I would not wish to be anywhere else or anything else, because, So,
yeah, that's awesome.
I don't know
if
that answered the question.
Yeah, but it really did. Because I think I'm curious what that feels like. Mm-hmm. So.
And it's wild that you said something earlier about, is it avoidant? Is it avoidant when you're avoidant attachment not avoidant. What's the second one after?
Anxious.
Anxious when you don't know what you're going to get. Mm-hmm. Something like that. All I know is my mom had a really tough time with her parents, and she experienced a lot of trauma and different things that she went through. And I don't know why I haven't fully figured out why this happens, but I know some people would go through what my mom went through, and it would completely negatively impact the way that they affect their kids or treat their kids. My mom was the type of I will never do this to my kids. If anything, I'm going to go over the top to make sure they're protected, because I know what it feels like to be kicked out the house. I know what it feels like to be given to the state and for your parents to not even look at you like you're, their daughter anymore, So wow. I don't know why some people go left and right, whatever it is, but I know that I definitely have seen through my mom's and my stepdad's relationship, and they're growing. I love those people to death. They know that. I've seen how their things from childhood have come out in their relationship.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
So.
And there's empathy once you get to that point, right? I think there's a consciousness with all of this, and as you raise your consciousness and you continue to do this work, you start to see it in other people, and there's this empathy of, I can explain why they're that way. And, you know, our parents grew up from parents that came from the Depression, that like,
For real.
there was no emotional support. There was no talk of feelings and love. It was survival. It was, let me make sure there's food on the table. Addictions were rampant at that point. Like, and that was all normal. And so, of course, you look at what our parents went through, and I think we're all doing the best we can. And some of us, like you said, break those cycles, those generational cycles. We do the work to break that. And some of us fall back into what feels familiar and and I think we're all kind of slated for a certain role every lifetime or whatever. I do think, but once you become conscious of it, it's kind of like, okay, I get it, and I'm not mad, and I'm going to change it. You know, it just, there becomes this forgiveness and empathy.
Yes. They say, I was saying that yesterday. They say ignorance. That's why ignorance is bliss. Yeah. Because sometimes it's better not even to know.
It's better to not even know.
Yeah, but once you become aware of these things, it's like, I mean, I don't know how you could ever go back.
No, it's actually, no, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't. It forces you to move forward, which it feels like fire sometimes. It's like you want me to step into that? Like, you sure? But I don't know. Now that I've started, I can't stop. I don't know about you, but there's like no stopping.
Never, ever.
No.
It's lifelong.
Yeah.
It's lifelong.
And it fuels you, right?
It does, yeah. It's good. What are some things that you've seen, not only from your life, but the people you work with and the things that you've done? What are some, I don't even like this term, but what are some, I'm not going to use that term. I'm going to say, like, what are some things that people should look out for early in a relationship?
Yeah. So the newest, like, we have so many terms now that we're saying that we weren't saying 20 years ago, right? We weren't talking about narcissism and love bombing and gaslighting and manipulation. We didn't have those terms. And so I think now we're growing up where I think we didn't know what love bombing was, which is really when you are showered with this love and admiration and you're told, oh my God, I've been waiting my life for you, and you are the woman of my dreams and all of this stuff. And when you have not really felt unconditional love before, that feels really good to have somebody say all that to you. Yet real love doesn't necessarily look like that. It's more of a slower rollout, right? It's more of this, I'm going to be honest with you, I really like you and I want to continue moving forward. I'm having feelings. Like, it's more of a genuine slow rollout. It's not this bomb that just drops on you. But at least with the women that I work with, when you have come from families that have had fathers that couldn't show that unconditional love, when you hear a man or a partner say that, it feels really damn good. Really, it's like everything you've been waiting to hear. And then you fall into this trap. And then that doesn't last. That's like the grace period. And then eventually these other traits start to come out. And you're like, wait a minute, like, you're not the person that, like, you were 6 months ago. And you're like, but I know you can be because you were. And so you start to explain away these behaviors. And all of a sudden you slowly get deeper and deeper and deeper into a relationship that is not healthy. And you get lost. It's like you have these goggles on and you start allowing things to happen that shouldn't be happening. And it's all because you saw this kind of other person in the beginning, and you keep holding that person sort of in the limelight. And you're like, but I know they can be that. But they've actually been trained unconsciously or consciously to do that cycle. And you're probably not the first, and nor will you be the last. Like, that's how they get their needs met. And most aren't even conscious to the fact that they're doing it.
That is incredibly dangerous.
Yes.
I experienced that with the honeymoon phase.
Yes.
That's a real thing.
Yes.
Where your feelings kind of cloud your judgment a little bit. You just, it's all feelings based. It's not, okay, what are they doing that really doesn't align with, or why am I, like sometimes I would have certain things that I would see that I wanted to speak up on, but it's like, but we could put that aside because it's feeling too good right now.
Right.
It's dangerous.
It is so dangerous. And you slowly lose your voice, and you slowly lose like your gut, like your instincts, all those things you start to question because you're like, wait a minute. And so, yeah, it can be really toxic. And then when you finally do step away from it, it feels like a drug because you've gotten used to this push-pull energy of I'm going to show you who I can be, and then I'm going to be this other person. And you constantly get into this like game of push-pull, and it literally creates the same endorphins in your brain as like a drug. Wow. Where you're like chasing that high. And so when you leave a relationship like that, there's a withdrawal that comes with it that you were so used to with the back and forth.
Is that why you think it's so hard for people to leave relationships?
Yes. So hard for people to leave toxic relationships, but also because that feels normal to them. And so much of it in my own work is tied to your worth. It's what do you feel you're worth? And for me, when you haven't experienced a relationship that is secure and healthy and gives everything that you give, like this match, when you haven't experienced that, you take good enough and like you hold on to good enough and you're like, because I don't know if it actually gets any better. Like you actually don't have like a stake in the ground of what it's supposed to feel like, I always like to say. So it's like with each relationship of mine, it's gotten better, but you still tend to attract to those things that feel like home, which for me, it's definitely caretaking. It's definitely more of an anxious attachment. Yeah. I would find my worth in others. So we had talked about this before, like the empath versus the narcissist. I am definitely an empath where I feel people. And so usually it doesn't take me long to feel pain in people. And I always just assumed other people could do that. And so I didn't think anything of it, but I can attract to a pain in people and I can explain it away. So this is the weirdness in me, but I'm going to tell you.
I love it.
I can be like, wow, there's a massive mom wound right there. I can tell like he wasn't loved, or I can say there was an alcoholic father in the picture here. Like, and so I would go to this role, which I unconsciously was doing of, I'm going to love him so deeply. I'm going to caretake him so deeply that he's going to see what love feels like. And so I would attract myself to people that fell more into that boat, that had more narcissistic tendencies. And what we learned is it's the same wound. Empaths and narcissists have the same wound. It's an abandonment wound. But what empaths do, which is really in many ways not that much better than narcissists, we focus so much on the other people to get our needs met. So we say, I'm going to take care of you so that you love me back and I know I'm okay. So we're constantly focused on other people. Where narcissists do the exact opposite. They focus completely on themselves and expect it in return. And so because the wound is the same, just flip-flopped, it's like they're instantly attracted to one another.
Man, this is like, this is why it's so good to talk to you about this stuff, because that is like mind-opening type of stuff. Wow.
Have you had any experience of your own?
With narcissists? Mm-hmm. I've seen it from the outside looking in, not personally. No. Yeah. And this is something that I pride myself on, I'd say. I feel like I'm really I'm good at picking up on signs from people early and knowing how to navigate from that space. And I watch, one of the biggest things that people need to start implementing is you need to watch how people treat other people. right? Even if it's from a distance, like really watch how people treat other people, how they talk about other people over a period of time, because you're going to start picking up on things where it lets you know, do I really want to get close with this person? Do I need to keep this relationship at a distance? Because and that can be in work, that can be in school, that can be on a team, that can be whatever it may be in a certain environment. Like, it's really important to pick up on the tendencies of the people around so that you know whether this is somebody you need to get close with or not.
Yeah.
Right? And so that's kind of my perspective. I've never really, I'd say, been in a real relationship, friendship, or intimate with somebody who's a narcissist. But I've seen it for sure. I have.
Yeah, and they're pretty good in the public eye.
Amazing.
They and that's what is so hard, is that people think that they are these incredible humans. Like, and I heard that a lot, believe me. And what they don't see is what happens behind closed doors and the games. And what narcissists do is they take the truth and they just take pieces from the truth, and then they create a narrative, and then that becomes their truth. And they actually really believe that. They really believe that, and they hold that. And so when you come to them and be like, no, but that's not what happened, it's like they'll drop a little bit of the truth, and then they'll play like a mind game, and you're like, wait a minute, did that happen? And all of a sudden you're constantly questioning yourself, and you're like, no, like, maybe that did happen. And it becomes this like mental gymnastics over a period of time. And then you start to see them when they're in public, and you're like, no, but he can be that person. So why? And it really starts to mess with people. And then when you finally start to find your voice and find the emotion behind all of it, they then play it as, look at, she's out of control, or she's the one that looks a little crazy, or she's the one, because you can't describe what's happening. So yeah, so I love your thought. I love your idea of like watching them around people. Another big clue I've always like, who's their inner circle? Do they have close friends? Like, do they have like intimate close friends? And yeah, because narcissists like to paint scenarios and sort of eliminate anybody from their life that's going to question that scenario. And so, yeah, it's a game of kind of where they're able to literally come up with the truth in their head, and then they create the truth. So, yeah, it is scary. It is.
They are very manipulative, but they really are good at knowing how to portray a certain thing that they're not.
Oh, absolutely.
One thing I've picked up on, and I think this applies for other things too, but a big thing is like, they can't listen. You know, you can pick up, even if it's a small, like small talk type of conversation. If a person has trouble listening for like more than 2 sentences, it's like, okay, bro, what's going on? Like, you can't just sit there and actually listen. You know what I mean? And that, I pick up on that quick. Wow. I'm like, well, I just left this conversation and you talked 90% of the time. Got you.
Oh,
yeah, I got you.
That is a big one.
That means the ego is really driving your car. If you're always focused on talking, I'm telling you, like, I know it might sound crazy. This is something I've like watched what it feels like hundreds of thousands of people at this point. Just what is your ability to listen to somebody in the smallest sense? You know,
it's so hard for people.
It is.
I see it. Yes, it is so hard. And then you have the people that tend to be the ones that just sit back and let people do that, right? But you just hit the nail on the head. That's interesting. I'd never classified that as one of the like signs, but yeah, that's it.
Like they'll be quick to tell you all the stuff they've done when you first meet them, right? They want to tell, oh, I did this, or, oh, I know about that, and like all this stuff that they're doing. Never ask you about you, not once.
Yeah.
If you not, yeah, bro, yeah.
So what's really sad though is that narcissism is rooted in shame. So there is no love in a narcissist because they are constantly running from who they are. And so you say they project this other person constantly. They are unable to be vulnerable in really any way. Like they are rooted in shame, and they are the last people to go to therapy, to say I'm struggling, to say something's wrong, to say I'm a like they're the people that are out there that are not doing the work, right? Because they are running so fast from themselves that they don't even consciously see it. So for me, it's like I feel like I can feel that in men, the opposite sex, and it's like before we had all these terminologies and all these words and what we knew was happening, it was like, no, I feel like I can show you what that love is, right? But these people can't look in the mirror. They really can't. Mm-hmm. And so to me, it's really sad. Like with what they're portraying, it's really sad. Yet it's not your rodeo. And so that is where we boundary up and we move forward, right? There's nothing we can do to fix or help. Like we all have to get to that point on our own. Mm-hmm. And so there is no fixing or saving somebody with narcissistic tendencies. Like they have got to lose enough, or they run through this lifetime not doing any work and just continuing to play this cycle out.
It has to be on them to change.
Yeah.
You can't change. That's one of that saying helped me tremendously. People don't change for other people, they change for themselves.
Yes.
I spent a lot of time growing up being like a people pleaser, thinking that, but I know I see the best in them, they can change. Nah, bro. If they don't want it, they're not going to change.
No.
They're not going to change. And the crazy thing about it is, too, when I feel like with somebody like a narcissist, when they do actually think that person is going to leave, or like really serious about moving out, then
they turn it on.
Yeah, you know what I mean? They'll do something to get them back in, and then narcissism back out. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's weird because they really don't want to lose that person.
No.
They're scared.
No. They feed off of you in a lot of ways. Yeah, they feed off of you, and they are attracted to that piece in them that you have and they don't, right? Where empaths are attracted to the selfishness that narcissists, and the control and the way that they own a room and they seem powerful and really like in them, like they seem like they have this presence of like, I'm really secure in myself, right, where empaths are not. And so the narcissists are attracted to empaths because we have this like caring, this like love, this like empathy, and we are willing to do anything for another human in return for love, which is also where like breadcrumbing comes up. Have you heard the term breadcrumbing?
Never. Let's talk.
So breadcrumbing is when they give you just enough to keep you around.
Oh, man.
So kind of what you just talked about, when you finally hit your wall and you're like, I'm out of here, I'm done. And then they drop a few breadcrumbs and you're like, oh, okay, I guess I can stay for a little bit longer, right? And so they do just enough to feed you and leave these little breadcrumbs, but never really meeting your needs, never like doing what you should have in a healthy relationship. It's just enough to keep you around.
Whew. I saw a podcast last week I was watching. It talked about narcissism and how he was like, do you think, the question was, do you think narcissism is more prevalent in today's society? He said, absolutely, especially with social media and all this stuff. But he was also talking about how, you know, like you said, narcissism is rooted in shame, and that inner child is hurting.
Yes.
You know, and it's like they're running away from, like you said, they're running away from the things that they don't want to deal with. They're running away from the trauma or abuse or whatever they experienced. And so that's what they do to cope with it.
Yeah.
You know?
And it usually, I think there's a ton of scenarios I've heard a ton of things of how does one child in a family become a narcissist and the others don't, right? Like, I think it just completely depends on the situation. I've heard it's been through a parent that could be like very overbearing, right? Like narcissists believe they can't do anything wrong. Like there was one relationship I was in, I never heard I'm sorry, like never. And so they do not take accountability for their actions. They just turn it in a way like, no, I told you I was going to be 4 hours late. Yep. And you're like, no, did you tell me you were going to be 4 hours late? Right? There's never an I'm sorry. And so I've heard it could be from an overbearing parent. I've heard it could be That parents with addictions could play in it. I don't think we honestly really know, to tell you the truth. But yeah, they do grow up thinking that they really can't do anything wrong.
What do you think about the idea of this? Just came to my mind.
Okay.
Because I've also seen how, if a narcissist like has kids with this person, the way that they treat the kids is different than, like, they don't necessarily use those same tendencies on the kids. It's like that's where they express the love, or they're willing to go out of their way to take them to this game or to buy them stuff, do all this stuff. It's like they do that, and it's like they have that as like ammunition. If
Yes.
like an argument happens and a person's trying to say like, you don't do this, it's like, you see what I do for the kids? You see that? You know what I mean?
Right. They actually use the children as pawn.
Yeah,
is what happened.
in a sense.
The children become a part of the game.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And have you?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, same.
That's why it just popped in my head.
Yeah, the children become a pawn because, once again, it's not about love. It's not about, it's about really them proving their story. And so they need the children to help them do that. And so they will use gaslighting, they will use manipulation, they will use that on the children, but the children are too young to even know that that's happening, right? And so I do think they start to question their own reality when that happens, like in the same with adults, but children need their parents to survive. So they have to latch on, they have to attach to their parents, because right now we have to look at it like bread or like water and food. Like it feels like that to them. Like they need that. So they have to believe that their parents are right. They have to believe that their parents are making the right decisions for them, and that they have to believe all those things until you start to get a certain age where you really start to question things. And I don't think I was in my late 20s before I really started to question things myself.
Wow.
But yes, children, it's really sad because children of narcissists grow up actually into very empathetic children because they feel like they're kind of striving always for that love. They're always looking to be seen, but it's coming from a parent that can't give it. So, and at some time they will realize that.
Before we move on to the next question I want to ask, or thing I want to get into is, what's some advice you would give to an empath, being one, to start giving themselves that love that they're always giving out?
So it's literally the point of my journey I'm on, to be completely honest. I think it's a few things. I do a few things daily in a practice where I started actually doing this meditation of focusing my energy in my body and not out. So empaths give their energy out constantly because it feels actually safer to be outside and constantly feeling the people around us than it is in. So you can actually look up, it's called the frame technique. It's on YouTube. You can actually practice focusing, keeping your energy in your body and not out. And what it's helpful is when you are in a situation with individuals around you that are of a toxic variety, or if you get exhausted in the public because you're constantly picking people's energy up, or it's hard for you to be in certain scenes, you actually can practice pulling your energy in and being inside your body. So I started doing that. The other thing is really saying no. So we, being people pleasers, as empaths mostly are, we tend to give more than we receive. So setting boundaries of when I actually want to say no, saying no, instead of coming up with an excuse
Facts.
or saying yes anyways.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Like really saying no. And then the other thing is really learning how to fulfill my needs by myself. So when I'm tired, when I want comfort, when I'm hungry, when I'm lonely, all of those harder emotions for me, how do I comfort myself, take care of myself, and not need other things, other people to do that for me? Because it's actually a gift that we can feel others. We have this incredibly sensitive heart, but it needs to be protected, and it needs to be constantly like refed, meaning you need rest and you need time in nature and you need to keep your circle small and you have to protect your energy. And so until we really learn how to do that, we're just giving it all away for free.
1,000%. Yeah, that's good. That's good. And last thing is what was that point? Like what was it that clicked, like I gotta change? I can't keep doing it. Like, what happened? Was it a certain situation?
It was my relationship.
Oh, okay.
It was totally the type of people I was attracting.
Okay. Oh, yeah,
and finally, I think after like my fourth serious relationship, I was like, oh, there's a pattern here, a little bit of a pattern. And yeah. And then it all clicked like, wow, I'm recreating things from my childhood here. Mm-hmm. Like it was just all. And once the awareness is there, then you're like, okay, so how do I change? And so much of it is giving the love you give to others back to yourself. Like you have to love yourself. You have to believe you're worthy of the greatest relationship and the deepest love. And those beliefs are ingrained in us from childhood. And so I'm not going to attract that person that's supposed to be in my life until I truly believe I deserve that person in my life. Wow. And so much of it is in our control. We just don't realize it.
And this is why they say awareness is the single most important thing in changing anything. Awareness over everything. You know, people talk about hard work or discipline or learning new. You have to become aware of what's going on in your life.
Yeah. And you're the main player, right?
Yes.
You are the main player.
Yes.
So most of the actions, most of the things happening to you are actually in your control.
People don't realize that.
No, they don't. They're super safe in victim mentality, like to blame others,
It's easy.
It is so easy.
Is it though?
No, I think it's comfort.
Yeah.
In like a chaos.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
But
I'm like,
I don't think it's easy.
I'm like, it's like they're both really hard.
Yeah.
It's like choose your hard. You know what I mean? Because it might be easy in the moment, but what you're doing long term is creating a harder life for yourself.
Absolutely.
You know, they say you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. I love that because I find that I'm constantly talking to people all the time about like, you know, relationships and I'm going through this and that. And a lot of times something that just skips over people's heads is the fact that, okay, you keep talking about how bad these men are or how bad these women are and why they keep doing this stuff. You never bring up the fact that you keep attracting these type of people into your life, ever. Right. It's always it's just the city I'm in, or it's just it's the bed dating pool. It's these guys nowadays, or it's these women nowadays. And I'm like, nah, bro, there's really good men and women out there. It's just about changing yourself so that you attract different people into your life.
Absolutely. We have such a big part of it. I think that self-awareness part is really hard for people because it's easier to say, look what you've done to me, and place blame. But in reality, you allowed them to do that to you.
That's a different level of accountability for yourself right there. Yeah,
absolutely. Why did you think that was okay? Why did you allow it for so long? And I think that's when you said that's what clicked for me is, wow, I like kept myself in these relationships because it felt normal. It felt like love. So until we start to really describe what love is. So.
Yeah, that's... And then what was I gonna say? Oh, the last thing, because I know you gotta go pretty soon.
No, it's okay.
Do you think, because I know a lot of people say heal first and then get into a relationship.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think two people can heal together?
I think it's ideal for two people to heal together.
Oh, okay.
So,
wow. Okay.
We heal in relationship. So I can live in my isolation bubble and heal myself all I want, but it's not until I get into a relationship and he starts to trigger parts of me from childhood or from old relationships or from communication to you name it. They will trigger all these things in you. That is the opportunity we have to heal that part of us that's coming up. But when you're on your own, those triggers don't happen. So you can do a certain amount of healing on your own. Absolutely. And I think that is essential, especially when you realize, oh, I've been doing these relationship cycles. I should probably take a break from relationships and figure out what my role is in this.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to dip my toe back into this world. But that's when it's safer for a lot of people, including me, to avoid relationships, because it's like, I kind of just like not, having to worry about getting into another relationship like that. But the real work is being in a partnership, working through that and communicating and coming up with strategies and and talking about the triggers and all. That's the work. And you can't do that unless you're with somebody else.
Wow. I've never heard that before. That completely just shattered my
thoughts.
Yeah, I was like, no, you got to heal yourself before you get. That's such a good point. Oh my god.
Because I don't think we ever heal ourselves. I don't think there's ever a healed. I think there's awareness.
Yes.
And we do our very best but
that.
Also finding a partner that's right there with you in that. Like, I'm aware of all my stuff, and there's probably more that's going to get uncovered, but I'm willing to do this with you. I'm willing to do hard and scary with you. Like, that's what's so powerful about a healthy relationship.
This conversation has literally gotten me to the conclusion that I think the number one quality you should be looking for in a person is self-awareness.
Yes.
Above all else.
Yes.
Because I think you can always work with a person who's self-aware and willing to speak on the things they're dealing with, can see where they're, causing issues or where they need to grow, and are willing to do that. But I think that all stems from the ability to be self-aware. Like, if you meet somebody and they're not able to articulate and tell you, like, certain things that they're going through, or certain things that they struggle with, or certain things they've, gone through, then I feel like that should be a sign, in a sense of, like, I don't know if this person is at a place to where we can grow together.
Absolutely. That's like, for me, like, the line, right? Like, because now that you're on this journey, just like me, it's like there's no stopping the growth, right?
Yeah,
so you've got to find somebody that's on that ride with you.
Yeah.
But what's scary is that you may match now and you may not later. It's like, because that's what happens with growth, right? And so it brings up all of these things that we were taught about marriage and partnership. And it's just, if people truly love each other and are willing to do the work together, they will grow together and work through that. But you have to have two souls that are willing to do that.
Willing to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Commitment, I think, is so important.
Agreed.
I'm committing to you.
Exactly.
Through everything.
Yeah.
Right? Through everything, I'm here. So we're going to make this work. It can get as hard as it needs to be, or we could be faced with the most difficult challenges. I'm committed to you.
Yes.
So I'm here.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you have anything else? Because I mean, we could keep going, but I really don't want to keep you.
What time is it?
Yeah, 4:30.
No. Is there any other questions?
Let me see. Let me see if one comes in. I feel like there's so much.
If not, I feel like that was good.
Yeah, it's fair. I like this one, but this could be the last one.
Okay.
Letting go of an attachment. I talk about this a lot because I feel like there's a big difference between attachment and connection. Right? Like I've started to view it as like, you're looking for the type of relationships where it's a genuine connection, not an attachment. And the way I've always viewed an attachment is you're literally placing a certain part of yourself in this external thing, right? Or in this person. And it's like, if you lose that person or that thing, you're losing a part of yourself. Yeah. So you don't want that. So you keep it. And that's how I always viewed it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I think it's really hard for a lot of people to leave toxic relationships or abusive relationships, or to separate from people they've outgrown because they have such an unhealthy attachment to this person.
Absolutely. It literally feels like part of them.
Right.
But if we go back to what we were talking about, like, it attaches to a part of them that is like 3 years old. So We learn our attachment. We come out 25% attached out of the womb, day one, okay? And then 75% by age 3, we have that attachment. So when we attach to somebody else, it is this insanely early childhood part of us that is attaching, which means that's why you get the different responses with anxious and avoidant, and because it's a significantly smaller part of you, like it doesn't have the knowledge that we have as adults. It literally feels like you're falling away and this feels like death. Like it's like this, there's like this extreme fear with it of life or death is really what it comes down to. And so you're right, that attachment is sort of like you're supplying me with something that I need. So when you take that away, it feels like I can't survive on my own.
Wow, yes, exactly. Oh, man.
So it's why it's so powerful. And I don't think we talk about it enough because it influences our choices, our partners, the way we speak. I mean, it influences us completely. I mean, so what was your initial question? It was attachment.
Yeah, letting go, how to let
go
of
the. So that's why when you back away from a toxic relationship, it feels like there's literally a hole. Like it is terrifying when you break free from that, which is why you always go back. It's why when you're ending one, there tends to be a little back and forth because it's like, no, just give me a little hit of it. Just a little, I need to feel a little bit. And then you fall back away. And it's like, I describe it as like you rip the Band-Aid off every single time. It's like so incredibly painful, which is when you're in a toxic relationship and you finally shut that door, it's great to be like out of sight, out of mind, to block them. Like don't go where they are. Like it's really, you need to totally disengage from them completely and heal and go through kind of the roller coaster that comes afterwards.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say to that is I think it's so important for people to reframe and have the right perspective on things, especially when it comes to growth and doing the things that are needed for you in that season. Those things usually will feel the most uncomfortable.
Yes.
Right? Growth will usually be the thing that feels most uncomfortable. So I think what so many people struggle with is, okay, I want to grow, I want to heal, I want to become better. But now when I'm faced with all this discomfort and all these challenges and all this struggle and all this internal congratulation, whatever that word is, I just threw that word out there.
I like it. It's a great word.
It's like, no, I don't. This is not what I was talking about. But it's like you need to understand that, like those feelings and those emotions and that what's going on, that pressure, that uncomfort, that discomfort, that shows that you're doing the right thing.
Yes. If you are feeling that, you are on the right way.
Right.
Like you are going the right way. I know. I say that about the last 5 years of my life. I'm glad nobody saw what happened behind closed doors. I had tantrums. I had like massive sob sessions. There were days I didn't get out of bed. Like it is not pretty. You are literally feeling everything that you've disconnected from for decades in my case. And then you're also coming down off of your nervous system is healing. And so you're also exhausted. Like it's not a fun process. Mm-mm. But I also would never go back. I would never choose anything different. And you gain this strength and this knowledge and this like awareness through it. And you start to learn yourself. And it's just such an empowering process. But it's the hardest thing I think I've ever done.
Come on.
So I'm right there with you. It's like growth is not easy. It is not easy.
That's so nice. It's so beautiful that you said that too. Like that's where the strength, you gain so much strength through that. Like that is where the growth comes in. That's where the resilience and the strength comes from, where you can handle certain things later in your life. Mm-hmm. It's through going through some very, very tough moments and situations and seasons and difficulties, and feelings and emotions and all those things.
Yeah.
It's going through that and not running away, not trying to escape, not trying to neglect what you need to face and just facing it.
Yeah.
And understanding that eventually the storm will pass. And when I come out, I'm going to be stronger. I'm going to be more equipped. I'm going to be more uplifted as an individual. And all it takes is one time. That's what I tell people. All it takes is one time for you to go through a storm and come out a better version of yourself, with more strength, more resilience, for you to be like, oh, okay, I got it now. Now, whatever comes into my life that's hard.
Agreed.
I'm getting something out of this.
Yeah.
So let's go. You know
I
what
actually can't wait for the other side because
exactly.
I cannot wait for what shows up or like what onion peel comes off or what aha moment. It's like, I know this is really shitty right now, but I know on the other side something really big is coming. So I agree with you. And you just have this trust. I know it's going to be okay.
Yep. It's liberating.
Yeah.
It's liberating. So. But yeah, that's going to do it for the episode. This was a great episode.
Awesome.
Yeah, I love this.
Awesome.
Appreciate you guys tuning in. If you guys are watching this, wherever you are, comment some questions, comment some topics that you guys want us to talk about. Always grateful to have Tracy in my presence for sure. But most importantly, remember to take everything that you've seen and heard with a grain of salt. We will catch you guys next week. Deuces.
Bye.